redid the Jeep Cherokee, they redid the Jeep Cherokee. Bringing it back with a completely new face, an interesting new transmission, a very different sort of power plant and orientation. Let's find out if change is good. Now, the new Cherokee goes up against Ford Escape, Honda CR-V, and Hyundai Tucson. And remember, this is a unibody car. They haven't done body on frame since the early 80s on a Cherokee or Liberty, so get over that. And keeping with its modern roots, it's available front-wheel drive, all-wheel drive, or real gutsy four-wheel drive. There's a difference. Now, spotting a Cherokee, you don't need my help. Nothing looks like that. This is the most dramatic styling departure in the history of the Jeep brand, and rather controversial. By the way, these are not the headlights. They print as such, but these are your turn signals and markers. The headlights are down here, basically in the bumper. The fog lights below that. Now, the first thing you're going to notice in this new Cherokee is nothing in the dash. It's under your butt. These seats are really comfortable. In an era when car seats, and if you noticed, airline seats are getting harder and harder, these are super soft. You just never see that anymore, and it's kind of cool. Now, the first thing I look for after I get comfy in here is, do they keep doing that WW2 Jeep theme? And as you can see, they don't. This is a very urban, sleek interface. The only two things that call back to their heritage are a tiny little embossed since 1941 down here, and the oddest thing, look up there at the bottom of the windshield. It's a little silhouette cutout, almost like an Easter egg, it's so small, of a Jeep going over a rock. I think they realized that WW2 stuff may as well be War of 1812 for the audience they're targeting here. Now to the main event, the 8.4-inch Chrysler Uconnect head unit. This is an outstanding interface, and we feel that way every time we run across it. It's simple. I believe now the touch response is faster than ever. You hit that screen, it responds right now. Very quick, which is more than just a nicety. That's how you end up getting quick in and out of the screen and not being distracted. Now, all the great media sources are here that you care about. iPod, Bluetooth streaming, both with good, if not perfect, meta-tag display. Notice that CD is optional on this car, and we don't even have it on this one. You can add it for like $200, but they're starting to say, forget it, you don't need it anymore. Now, the navigation system is probably the best place to get a feel for why this thing wins awards in J.D. Power surveys for ease of use. This is simple and clear and clean. Where things fall down is when you go to the voice command button, and it's much less intuitive. Notice. Address.
Sorry, I didn't get that. You can say things like, destination 1 Main Street, Detroit, Michigan, or find nearest gas stations.
Cancel. So on some screens, you say what's on the screen. On other screens, you say what's on the screen, and it doesn't know what you're talking about. That's a weird mix of expectations that is not good UI. And then when you get to this Uconnect Apps logo, you can go to the Uconnect store. It starts to get confusing here, but it's powered by 3G, which is built in. That I applaud. But it's 3G. That I don't applaud. Oh, forget it. It takes forever, and then you get a disconnect notice. Take my word for it. Once you get in there, there's a $20 fee telematics app that lets you access and control your car. But oddly enough, Yelp is baked into this unit without any extra technology. So it's a weird hodgepodge. Now, aside from this big boy right here, which, by the way, comes with or without navigation, that is an optional extra to this. You've also got a really nice color LCD between the gauges. Again, something kind of special in a Jeep. And I like how it's full bleed. It goes right out to the curved edges of the speedo and the tach. They really utilize that area. In there is a whole variety of vehicle information screens, and it's highly configurable, down to absurdities like deciding what goes in the upper left and upper right corner and how you want your gear position displayed. But I guess choice is better than none. Last thing I want to show you in here are the drive controls. Now, one choice only, 9-speed automatic. We'll talk a little bit more about that when we get up to the engine bay. Right adjacent to that, because we have a Trailhawk, which is the most trail-ready, a multiple terrain response controller. You've also got the ability to do some pretty serious crawl in this guy, down to a 56-to-1 crawl ratio. And because this guy's a real four-wheel drive, not just an all-wheel drive, you've got a four-wheel drive low mode, and you've got rear lock. Now, under the hood, this is part of the indication that we're in modern Jeep age. The engine, right off the bat, Multi-air 2.4 liter, side saddle inline 4 that by default just drags the rear end around in front wheel drive configuration. Multi-air is Fiat's hydraulically driven technology for variable valve event control. Now, the numbers on this engine are 184 horsepower, 171 foot-pounds of torque. But it gets there without any clever tricks. Notice I didn't mention any turbos. You don't see any here. And there is no direct injection on this car. It uses kind of old school, 1980s-ish multi-port fuel injection. So nothing tricky here. In full four-wheel drive locking drivetrain trim, as this one is, you just barely tip 2 tons in weight, 0 to 60 a little under 9 seconds. MPG in four-wheel drive is 21.28. Go front-wheel drive, you get up to 22.31. Now, the gearing all this hooks up to, as I mentioned, one choice only, 9-speed automatic. No paddles. Instead, they use the back of the wheel for audio controls. Interesting. The top 4 gears, top 4 of that transmission are all overdrive. I've never seen that before. And this is, they say, the only four-wheel drive crossover that can unlock the rear and freewheel it when not needed for fuel efficiency. Let's see how it all comes together on the road. Okay, the good news on this Cherokee is that the engine note is quite nice and the ride quality is quite nice, and as I mentioned, nice comfy seats. So things get off to a really good start. But you know my little trick. When I first drive a car that comes into CNET, first thing I do is do no research and drive it for an hour or two and try and guess what's under the hood and underneath the chassis. And this one I thought had a CVT transmission. In fact, it's a 9-speed automatic, as we now know. That's no compliment to the automatic. This thing is kind of slippery and vague and wandery, therefore taking what is already a small engine for the package and putting it at a further disadvantage. I just don't like driving this vehicle. There's enough power there, but not responsiveness. Okay, let's price our 2014 Jeep Cherokee Trailhawk, basically top of the line, with real four-wheel drive, with locking and low range, $30,500 with the 2.4-liter 4 that, as you can tell, I'm not hugely fond of. So I've got to drive that V6 before I make any other move in the showroom, and that'll add $1,500. Now the options to go CNET style. The big one is the tech package. For $2,200, you get adaptive cruise control, including stop and go, brake assist, auto high beams, blind spot and cross traffic technology, lane departure warning. You get the idea. $1,900 for the convenience package. That includes automatic temperature control, headlights that turn themselves off and on, a rear camera, you want that, power liftgate, power driver's seat only, and remote start. Navigation, as I mentioned, is an $800 add-on to that Uconnect head unit. CD player, $195. You can upgrade the audio for $400 to add more speakers and better amps. Add a dual pane glass sunroof for $1,400. Now you're at around $37,400 all in, still well shy of $40,000 for a vehicle that, you got to give it credit, has some real off-road skills. My downside, as you can imagine, is that powertrain. At least with this engine, I find driving it to be a mess.